This video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a website, a domain, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace and use the discount code AndrewMarr. G'day guys, I'm down south, down near Augusta, and I've met up with Matt Fields again. I did a video with him when we took the drones out to the Salt Lakes out in the Wheatbelt. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link for it up the top here. This time we've come south and we met up at Karridale Roadhouse, and now we're making our way east to Black Point. We've got a really nice little track at the moment that we're going across. We're hoping to get to Black Point for sunset. There's a nice little campsite to check out, and maybe even a sunrise tomorrow morning. It really depends on what the weather is. The weather's forecast to turn a little nasty. We've got plenty of rain coming tomorrow, so who knows. We're going to make the best of it and the most of it while we're there. Anyway, we've got this nice little track that we're following along the coast, and when we get there and we know what the plan is, I'll let you know. Copy that. Normally on these tracks, the rule is that the largest party has the right of way. But in this instance, it's just the single guy coming in the opposite direction, and there's us, so normally we'd have the right of way, but it was just much easier for us to find a little clearing to pull off, because this track is, for the second part, only the width of a car. It's a really fantastic track, lots of different sections. There's sandy sections, a little bit boggy, and a few ruts, but nothing too bad. Some nice gravel sections and a few rocks. Definitely recommend it, but I'd highly recommend you do it in a four-wheel drive. Matt and I have eventually made it down to Black Point. It's a beautiful little area. I haven't been here before, but there's actually lots of different sections. Matt, who's just standing here, has just been showing me around the different bays and cliffs and stuff like that. And it's really, really interesting. What we've got to do is take into account where the light is going to fall, where the sun is going to set, and we've got a couple of challenges in front of us. One of them is the black rock, Basalt Rock. It's formed because of the algae in the rock, and it forms these hexagon shapes. We saw some of that over in Tasmania, I think. So we've got it down at Black Point. That's what Black Point is actually named after. It's these black rocks, and the challenge photographically is to try and get some of the rocks in the foreground, but with the light behind them. Because these rocks are so dark, getting detail out of the rocks in the foreground is going to be quite a challenge. You might be able to hear also that we've got quite a lot of waves and wash coming in, and that's throwing up the water and creating foam and whitewash all over the place, and of course that's just going to blow out there. The third challenge that we've got is up and down these cliffs here. There are these little channels that are pointing out to the sea, but they're pointing out probably 90 degrees to where the sun is going to set, and we're just trying to decide whether the foreground controls where we point the camera and our final image, or where the sun is going to set. And we've also got some quite nice cloud in the sky, which should be able to pick up some of the colour from the setting sun. So I'm personally inclined to probably shoot 90 degrees from the sun. It'll mean that I might get some nice side lighting on the rocks early up, but it also means that my foreground is likely to create a leading line somewhere, but I'll admit I'm not too sure where. Matt, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking at the moment?
No idea really, it's a bit of a challenge, but I'm liking the cliffs in the background, nicely side lit. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Nice leading line as well, but interest. Apart from that, not a huge amount really. It's going to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, so we've got we do have some cliffs in the background, as Matt was saying, and they might, do you reckon that light's going to fall on those cliffs nicely, or do you reckon they'll...
Looks like it, especially with the sea mist coming up as well. It's looking quite nice, but...
True.
Again, the foreground, no idea really.
No.
Black rock.
So look, we're going to have a bit more of a hunt around. Which direction are you going to go in?
I'll probably head back down that way, I reckon.
And why do you reckon you're going to go that way?
Into the bay a bit further. I quite like the sweep of the bay heading around towards the sunset. So that's sort of my thinking.
Nice.
But
I personally think I might try and find some foreground that I'm happy with here, and then I might head down towards you and join you down there.
Nice.
Best of luck.
Like a plan. Yeah. See how it goes.
Let's go.
Wicked.
So down here we've got a bit of a rock pool. We've got these semi-large boulders. They're around about bigger than a basketball. A nice pool of water in front of me, and then we've got this section of rock, black rock. And just at the right time, like now, we've got some water that kind of goes over the rocks and creates a little bit of pattern, a little bit of interest in the foreground. Now I reckon that would be quite nice if the sky was lit up with some nice colour. I'll keep that one in mind. We might come back to that one. So Matt and I have split up a little bit. He's just around the corner from me. I've finally settled on a composition that I'm pretty happy with. I've got this nice little rock pool in front of me, and it's pointing out, as I said before, 90 degrees to the sun. The sun is setting as we speak behind this rock, so even if I was able to see it and it was in shot, the rock is in the way. But I am still getting a little bit of side light on the rocks just on the left-hand side of this rock pool. The way I've composed the shot is I've got this rock pool coming around and it finishes a good distance before the bottom of the image, and then there's a couple of other rocks and a little bit of water that is still feeding into the rock pool right at the bottom of the image, and I think that's a nice little bit of foreground. I've also got this nice texture of the black rocks. It's a lot easier to get the textures in the rocks with me not shooting directly into the sun, so I haven't got as much contrast. So I've got the Nikon Z7 with the 14 to 30 mil, but I'm at around about 23 mil. I'm not really wide because the rock pool is a couple of meters in front of me, and I'm trying to get close in on that as much as I possibly can. And if I go much wider, I think I'll lose it. So I want it to be an important part and a significant part of the image. So I'm at 23 mil, and on the front of the lens, I've got the Lee mount with just the polarizer on at the moment. And I'm playing around with the polarizer and I'm getting some really interesting effects. At certain angles, I'm getting rid of the sheen or the reflection off the water, but the textures of the rocks really comes out. But I'm playing around with it because at other angles I'm actually getting a nice reflection in the surface of the water. So it's a bit of a dilemma. Would I prefer a reflection in the surface of the water of the rock pool, or do I need to cut through and see the detail of the rock underneath? We'll find out. So the light is looking really fantastic. We've got some beautiful pinks and blue hues in the sky and some interesting detail in the clouds as well. I've set the camera up on ISO 64 for the cleanest image. I'm on f11 because the rocks in the bottom of the image are not all that close to the camera, so f11 is going to get everything in focus. It gives me a deep enough depth of field, and I'm on 2-second shutter. I'll just check that. Yeah, a 2-second shutter. So with the polarizer, I've decided to have more detail in the rocks and more of a reflection on the surface of the water. And it looks really good. So as well as the polarizer, I've also got a 0.6 hard graduated filter on the front as well, and that's just knocking out some of the light in the sky and gives me a more even exposure across the image, which means that I can get the image in just one shot. There's two sorts of shots that I could be actually getting here. One is with a longer shutter of around about 2 or 3 seconds, which I'm taking at the moment, and the reason why I want a long shutter speed is that I want that water in the rock pool as flat as I possibly can. But every now and then a large wave comes like this one, and what I can do is I can knock the shutter speed, quicken it up by stopping down the aperture, and I can get more action in the movement of the water. Well, that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of running around at the last minute as the light started to get really good, and we were just deciding just at the last minute what our final compositions were going to be. I'm reasonably happy with the shot that I took. Matt, how'd you go?
Yeah, pretty good. Good little rock pool down the front there, sort of just to the left of Andrew, but yeah, a little bit of water moving through, but again, the light didn't really happen where I wanted it to. Sort of went well off to the left and nothing really around the middle of the frame, and yeah, all in all, it's a fun afternoon.
Well, look, it is fun. That's what we're at here. It's not necessarily just to catch or to capture images. It's all about fun, and we're about to go back to camp. We've got a great little camp spot there, but more importantly, we're about to have tea. And of course, as you know, Matt's a chef, so there's a lot of pressure on him for that. Before we see what Matt whips up for dinner, and I show you a little bit more around Black Point, I just wanted to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. When updating my website, I was reminded about how easy it is to do so with Squarespace. Whether you're adding a new image or a new blog post, rearranging portlets on a page, or simply adding an entire new page to your website, it's so quick and easy with the drag and drop approach that the platform provides, and there's no code required at all. All the content that I add looks great across mobile, tablet and desktop. I don't have to worry about any of that because Squarespace handles it all through their beautifully designed templates. You can start your free trial at squarespace.com. And if you do check them out and you want to go ahead with a website, make sure you go to squarespace.com/Andrew Marr to get 10% off your first purchase.